the Henry Crown Fellows were having something called the Act Two reunion here in Aspen. It was a reunion of over 10 years, maybe 12 years of Henry Crown Fellows getting together. There were I think there were over 200 or 300 people assembled to do what they like to do, have seminars, talk about the good society, and also press themselves into action. And one of the things that came out of that Act Two were a group of Henry Crown Fellows who decided that there is a real strong need to recognize and award innovation in energy and environmental progress. And that from their particular point of view, and the Henry Crown Fellows, many of them are entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs and venture capitalists, they felt it was very important to be able to identify leaders, thought leaders, from different sectors. And so tonight, we're very privileged and honored to have the 2010 award recipients here for the Aspen Institute Energy and Environment Awards. I want to thank and give a very special warm thanks to Lee McIntyre and Teresa Lohr from CH2M Hill. They have sponsored this award from the very beginning, and we're very grateful to them. Here now to host the awards is my good friend and another leader, Andrew Shapiro. He's the founder and the president of Green Order. Please welcome Andrew.
Thank you, David, and all of you. For those of you I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm Andrew Shapiro. I'm the founder and president of Green Order. We're a firm that's been working for more than a decade to make environmental innovation a source of competitive advantage and an integral part of the way that companies operate, create, and engage. I've also had the privilege of being involved with the Aspen Institute since 1998 as a creator and moderator of seminars, a project director, and as a speaker. So it's a particular pleasure for me to join you all tonight to present the Aspen Institute's Energy and Environment Awards. It's such an exceptional group of organizations and individuals who you'll be meeting in a moment. These are folks who are really helping to meet our energy and environmental challenges and advance positive change. Thank you, David. Now, you know, it seems like it's always a challenging time to be an environmentalist, but the last year's been particularly tough. The Copenhagen meeting in December didn't really turn out the way most of us wanted. The announcement just last week that the Senate is not going to pursue a cap on carbon. And of course, this past spring, we had perhaps the biggest challenge of all, the story that dominated the media 24/7. It wasn't the first incident of its kind, but it clearly was the worst. It showed the risks of how we live today and said a lot about our culture. Every day, people were wondering, could we stop it? And finally, thank God, we contained it. I'm talking, of course, about Lindsay Lohan finally being behind bars. But seriously, I mean, between Lindsay Lohan and Mel Gibson, our celebrity culture is almost as toxic as the Gulf oil spill. But seriously, folks, joking aside, this is a unique time for all of us as leaders in the business community, the policy community, wherever we may work. It's a defining moment. We have an opportunity to work together to develop new and more innovative approaches to challenges that are really interdependent, our environmental, energy, and economic challenges. Tonight, we're highlighting just a few of the approaches that really represent this approach, but we should really be celebrating the great work that so many organizations do, the ones that are nominated tonight but didn't win, and others who are represented here in Aspen this week. And I encourage all of you to reach out to them, to learn what they're doing to help to create a cleaner and more prosperous economy. Lee McIntyre, President and COO of CH2M Hill, I'd love for you to come up and give us a few remarks. And again, I thank you for your generous sponsorship of these awards.
Hi. First of all, it's nice to be here. It's nice to be in Aspen. And it's pretty exciting to be talking about these awards. You know, the people of the world are not too sure about our financial institutions. They're not too sure about government being able to get anything done. But folks like you, from municipalities to corporations to small companies and large, have said, heck with it. We're just going to go do it ourselves. We're going to be leaders. And that's what you all have been, as leaders. And we really want to thank you for it. So it's really fun to be around 6 outfits, units, organizations that are just getting something done. So we're really proud to be around it and not hear about things that can't get done for political or institutional reasons. So it's just really fun to be here. Thank you very much. And you back?
Terrific. So I want you all to know that in your programs, you have the award criteria, and there is a group of distinguished judges, many of whom are in the audience this evening, who have laboriously gone over the nominees and taken serious effort to figure out who are the most deserving awardees in each category. You will see, if you look at those criteria, that there is one theme that comes up again and again in all these different categories, whether we're talking about business, government, the nonprofit sector, even the visual arts, and that is the concept of disruptive innovation. These awards are really about who can create change that will have a lasting, game-changing impact. And so let's start with the first category, the corporate awards. We first are going to announce the 2 finalists. There were 2 companies leading the way in solar energy development and deployment, and our congratulations go to Mia Soleil and Solyndra for being finalists in this category. The winner is Amyris Biotechnologies for disruptive solutions to create a new generation of transportation fuels. Through the application of synthetic biology technology, Amyris is pioneering new renewable fuel alternatives that are fully compatible with existing engines and distribution systems. To accept the award for Amyris Biotechnologies is Kincaid Reiling, the co-founder of the company. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you for braving the near rain. Also, thank you, and I'm honored to be here for the roughly 300 people that are working at Amyris to actually make real kind of the intro that Andrew was kind enough to give. I also admit it's humbled to be called an innovator by this room full of people. It's a lot of peer pressure. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to report back very soon as to the progress on our scaling up of taking our ideas through to impact. If I can take just a moment and describe what we're planning, what impact we hope to make. When we started the company, the idea was how do we bring the diversity of and the power of natural products into the biorefinery. The first target, which we got the Gates Foundation to believe in, was the movement or the development of an anti-malarial drug. I'm proud to say that we see that going to market with Sanofi Aventis in the near future. Impact there is low-cost drug delivered to Africa. Our second product was actually identified from apple peels. It's something that turns out if you make it in large quantities, it's a great diesel, and also a feedstock for certain chemical applications. So on that, we're looking to do first commercial sale next year and then scaling beyond there. So I hope that I can come back at some point in the future and report in with some metrics that Andy likes to have everyone have as metrics, which is CO2 out of the air and lives saved in Africa. So thank you again, and thank you to the panel, or excuse me, the judges, and to the Aspen Institute. Right.
So while business plays a key role in environmental innovation, we also need governments that get it and can set the right rules and ground conditions for business innovation. One of our finalists in this area is a government entity called Cow Power out of Vermont. It's a program that's turned waste into value for Vermont's dairy farmers. And our winner is the Building and Construction Authority of Singapore for the development of significant new policies to enhance the sustainability of the built environment. The government of Singapore has set ambitious targets for energy efficiency, and better design and construction of buildings is essential to achieving these goals. The goal that the government has set is to have at least 80% of the buildings in Singapore attain certification within 20 years for green building and sustainable construction. An ambitious goal at that. Accepting for the Building and Construction Authority of Singapore is Dr. John Keung, its CEO.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm really very honored to be here in Aspen to receive this very prestigious Energy and Environment Award from the Institute, the world-renowned think tank. You must be wondering what we have done in Singapore to end up being here this evening. So let me just share a little with you on our effort in promoting and implementing environmental sustainability in the building sector in Singapore. For a very small city-state like Singapore, sustainable development to us is not a choice, but a necessity. With our highly urbanized environment of 5 million people and a minuscule land area of 700 square kilometers, we recognize very early on the need to develop an environmentally sustainable city. Given that our buildings consume a third of the national end-use electricity, the potential for energy and economic saving is huge. So the Building and Construction Authority Singapore has made the adoption of green buildings our top priority. In a short span of 5 years, we have put in place the Green Building Master Plan and the Sustainable Construction Master Plan, consisting of policy levers and initiatives to drive Singapore's green building movement, covering the entire life cycle of the built environment. These include introducing a green building rating system. We call it the BCA Green Mark system for the tropics, establishing a demolition protocol and an accreditation system for the use of recycled materials in construction, setting minimum mandatory environmental sustainability standard for all new buildings in Singapore, and setting up a US $87 million fund and even bonus 4-area scheme for developers of new and existing building to adopt green building features. And a US $36 million R&D fund was also established to spur development of cost-effective, energy-efficient solutions. A zero-energy building was also retrofitted from an existing building to test-bed new technologies. And a holistic training framework was also established to build up a strong green-collar workforce. I'm also pleased to share that our BCA Green Mark scheme is gaining recognition in countries such as China, Southeast Asia, India, and the Middle East. But there is much to be done, and we have set ourselves a very ambitious target to green 80% of all our building stock, including existing building, by the year 2030. So we cannot rest on our laurels, and we'll be pressing on to further Singapore's goal for sustainable development. And I hope we'll come back here sometime in future to update you on our efforts. So once again, I thank the Institute for honoring BCA Singapore with this award. It is indeed heartening to know that our effort, though taking place in another continent, is getting mindshare at international platforms such as today's Environment Forum and awards. Thank you very much.
Well, that is the spirit of the Aspen Institute: global in scope, local in action. Our next award is in the NGO category, and in the last couple of years, to see the amount of change and innovation happen in the NGO sector has really been amazing. Some of the most remarkable work that's being done is on the ground in communities, and our two finalists are exemplars of that approach. Sustainable South Bronx is one, and the Shaanxi Volunteer Mothers from China is another, and again, a very global perspective. But our winner in the NGO Award category is the Blue-Green Alliance for developing a unique labor-environmental collaboration dedicated to expanding the number and quality of jobs in the green economy. The Blue-Green Alliance is a groundbreaking coalition between the United Steelworkers and the Sierra Club. It's brought together more than 8 million people in pursuit of good jobs, a clean environment, and a green economy. Accepting for the Blue-Green Alliance is its executive director, David Foster.
Well, thank you very much, Bill and Andrew, Lee, and the Aspen Institute. On behalf of the 10 partner organizations that now make up the Blue-Green Alliance, our 2 environmental partners, the Sierra Club and the Natural Resources Defense Council, and our 8 union partners who cross the entire gamut of the American economy, from the United Steelworkers to the American Federation of Teachers, the laborers and the sheet metal workers in the construction industry, the communication workers, service employees, transit workers, and utility workers. We represent over 8.5 million members, and on their behalf, I'm equally pleased to accept this award from the Aspen Institute. Your institute represents opinion leaders from around the world, and those of us who labored hard to create this unlikely marriage of unions and environmental organizations. Your recognition of our efforts is an important benchmark of our success. But I'm a great believer that an organization succeeds not only because of the hard work of its board, staff, and leadership, but because it's able to anticipate trends and cross-currents in our economy. In that regard, I believe the Blue-Green Alliance is an organization whose time had come. In a tightly connected global economy, where the imperative to solve the climate crisis is interwoven with the aspirations of 6.5 billion people for a better life, any individual success of either the labor or environmental movements is dependent upon their mutual success. Big investments in our pressing environmental challenges are the only viable solution to our systemic economic challenges. And the solutions to the current unemployment crisis that are exacerbating climate change are ephemeral at best and push us toward even more dangerous economic crises. Now, last week, on the day that the United States Senate finally passed legislation restoring unemployment benefits to over 2.5 million Americans, the Blue-Green Alliance and one of its partner unions delivered over 100,000 handwritten letters from steelworkers all over the United States urging their senators to immediately pass clean energy, jobs, and climate legislation as the smartest and most effective way to put America back to work. One of those steelworkers, Dennis Barker, from a steel mill in the hard-bitten town of Granite City, Illinois, said it this way: "I like to say that I work in a green job in a smokestack industry. We make the steel that goes into wind turbine towers and all the other 8,000 parts and 250 tons of steel it requires. Thanks to the support we got from the Blue-Green Alliance and the Sierra Club, we now work in the cleanest coke oven in the United States. Dennis Barker may work in a smokestack industry, but he's building the infrastructure for the clean energy economy. Every blue-collar job can have a green purpose. That's the mission of the Blue-Green Alliance, to turn every job in America into a green job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David Foster. I hope that your words are heard in Washington and throughout this country. Our next category is exciting. This is the Visual Art Award. Now, of course, a key criterion for the Visual Art Award is aesthetic quality, artistic merit. But this is an Energy and Environmental Award, and the two nominees, both, are pioneering really interesting new approaches, tools, working methods, and materials that have sparked a public dialogue about energy consumption and the built environment. And they are Lucid Design Group and Shigeru Ban Architects. And our winner is Shigeru Ban of Shigeru Ban Architects for highlighting and reframing our understanding of the structural and architectural elements of the built environment. Shigeru Ban's iconic paper tube structures are a new low-tech, low-cost, and sustainable approach to building, construction, and design. Shigeru Ban has used this technique for projects at all scales, from refugee shelters all over the world to temporary exposition buildings to full-scale museums, and I should add that they have a project going on here in Aspen, Colorado. Accepting the award for Shigeru Ban is his partner, Dean Maltz, the managing partner of Shigeru Ban Architects. Please join me in celebrating Shigeru Ban.
Thank you very much for this award. Unfortunately, Shigeru Ban couldn't be here today. We do projects throughout the world. We have offices in Paris and Tokyo, and also in New York. That's the office that I come from, where we do projects throughout the United States. And like Andrew just mentioned, we're working on a design here in Aspen. We're in the concept design phase for a new museum in downtown Aspen. And unfortunately, this type of award for art and design, you have a better understanding when you get to see the designs of it. But since we cannot see that tonight, you could always go see a concept design model at the current Aspen Art Museum. One of the interesting things that I've learned today is how much, going to these seminars, how much energy that gets used in buildings. 25% of the energy use in the United States goes into the construction of buildings and the maintenance of buildings. And 25% of the energy that's being used in the world is being used by the United States. So 1/16 of the entire energy consumption in the world is going to American buildings, and architects and engineers have a very strong impact on how energy and our scarce resources can be used. Part of what Shigeru has been designing, and he's been designing these structures since 1984 for exhibitions, has been exhibitions. We've done a building as large as 30,000 square feet, totally made out of cardboard. We've made walking bridges completely out of cardboard, theaters out of cardboard. Primarily, we've been, and also refugee shelters. We're building refugee shelters right now in Haiti. It's a low-cost material, and when the material finishes its purpose, the material can then be recycled. It has a low carbon footprint. It's quite a privilege to get this award. Sorry Shigeru couldn't be here, and thank you very much on behalf of Shigeru Ban Architects.
I encourage folks to go check out that model and otherwise to look into Shigeru Ban Architects' great work. Our next category is individual thought leadership. And while we have heralded and celebrated organizations thus far, it's critically important that we recognize that new ideas that can really help to solve our environment and energy challenges are often going to come from renegade individuals. These are folks who can not only help solve environmental challenges, but do so in ways that drive competitiveness and prosperity for all. Each of the finalists for this award, Gretchen Daly, who's a professor of biology at Stanford, Bill McKibben, a notable author and the founder of the organization 350.org, and Bill Blakemore, a correspondent for ABC News who's done a lot of reporting on climate. Now, each of them are not just thought leaders, they are passionate and tireless advocates for action to combat climate change and to combat environmental degradation. And so we celebrate all of them. But we could only have one winner, and the winner is Gretchen Daly of Stanford University, for pioneering the concepts of natural capital and ecosystem services that are revolutionizing the international science community and triggering a revolution in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. Professor Daly's core premise is that if nature is properly valued, everyone wins. We can greatly enhance investments in conservation, secure human welfare, at the same time as we protect biodiversity. Now, Professor Daly is sorry that she was not able to make it here this evening, but accepting the award on her behalf, we have her colleague, John Foley, who's the director of the Institute on the Environment at the University of Minnesota. John, please come on up.
Well, I'm hoping you can Photoshop her into that picture you just took. Is that going to be possible? Well, okay, so obviously I'm not Gretchen Daly. She could not be here today, much to her regret. She's actually working in the field today on much of the work that she does, which is in environmental conservation and linking that to economic prosperity and innovative finance, which is really what this award is all about and what it honors her work for. I spoke to Gretchen last week, and she first wanted me to convey her thanks to the Aspen Institute and to colleagues here for recognizing her work and for the work of her colleagues and students. And again, as was said, she really is a leader in really thinking outside of the ecological box and asking, what is nature worth? If we put a value on nature, its ability to sequester carbon, to provide clean air and clean water, providing pollinating insects, etc., then maybe we'll really value it as much as the things we strip mine out of nature, if you will. So she's been revolutionary in that regard, and I think this award is very, very appropriate. So again, from Gretchen, thank you to the Aspen Institute. I think she would have also liked being called a renegade, too. Secondly, I would like to thank you on behalf of the larger scientific community that works with Gretchen. She didn't ask me to do that, but I wanted to say that. She's really been an inspiration to a whole generation of scientists and students, not just at Stanford, but all over the world, not only for her science, for her reaching out to the rest of the world and engaging them, but also to show what it's possible within the academic community to not just be a scholar, but somebody who's actually changing the world. So on behalf of her colleagues and the rest of the community in which she works, I'd like to thank you as well for this wonderful recognition of her work. Thank you.
Fantastic. Maverick may not be a word that everybody wants to have apply to them, but renegade still is. All right, so moving to our closing, I want to thank each of these individuals, the awardees, for their remarkable work, and also the finalists for the work they've done, their leadership and their ability to inspire new thinking. Your accomplishments are contributing to a real paradigm shift It's what we're studying and learning about here at the Aspen Environment Forum in terms of how we address and deal with energy and environmental challenges in the context of business, government, and communities at large. One last point before I turn it over to Bill Dirks. This recession and the continued uncertainty that we have around the economy and the policy landscape is making this a difficult time, no doubt. And a lot of us are asking, what do we do now? What's next? It's really hard to predict where things are going. But if we take a historical perspective, we can also see that it's at times like this when real change gets made. It's during a difficult time that the hype is separated from the reality, and we reveal what's really going on. And in this case, I think it's that we're learning that sustainability, whatever that may mean to you, is a complex and systemic challenge that requires really strong leadership and bold action, and that's what we've been celebrating this evening. It's not just about changing light bulbs or other quick fixes. It's really about changing mindsets and inspiring action to build a culture of environmental innovation that will allow our society to embrace transformation, to grow responsibly, and to sustain progress for all on this planet. And now I would like to turn it over to Bill Dirks, who was introduced at the beginning. He is the board chair of the Aspen Institute's Energy and Environment Awards and has been our gracious presenter to each of the awardees, Mr. Bill Dirks.
Andrew, my sincere thanks for helping us make this event a success tonight. I think you'll agree with me that the creation of an environmentally sustainable, renewable energy economy is a daunting challenge. And for those of us that have attended some of the sessions today, we've all witnessed firsthand the palpable sense of frustration that most of us feel that things aren't progressing quickly enough. But I'd offer that it's reassuring to know that there really is a global and, for the most part, as you've seen this evening, self-organizing community of achievers out there that are dedicated to meeting this challenge head-on, are making a difference, and are doing it not waiting for direction from government or some higher authority. This year, as an example of that, the Aspen Energy and Environment Awards received 66 nominations from 11 countries worldwide, every one of which was a world-class effort in its own right, any which of one we would have been proud to recognize as a winner. And it's a very strong comment on the magnitude of the effort going on globally. Your presence here this evening and your attendance at the Aspen Environmental Forum also signals your individual commitment to energy and environmental stewardship and leadership. And while it's fitting that we gather here this evening to celebrate the noteworthy achievements of our winners, I think more to the point, it's appropriate that each of us honor these good works by taking them back home to our local communities, by advocating for adoption of these approaches and similar approaches to energy and the environment, because it's at the local level that we're going to make this change happen. There are an awful lot of people that participated in this process and made it happen tonight. I would conservatively estimate several hundred hours of individual effort that went in to gathering awards, screening nominees, going through a voting process, and putting the event on. While individual recognitions are too numerous to mention, there are a few people that I would like to single out. Andrew, thank you very much for your help putting the ceremony on tonight. To the Aspen Institute, and specifically to David Monsma, the director of the Energy Program, and to Peter Reiling, the director of the AGLN and the Henry Crown Fellowship, who made this happen, our sincere thanks. To our independent judges panel that took time out of their busy schedules to review 66 nominees and go through a careful process of discussing them and screening them and having a collaborative dialogue on their positive points and ultimately emerging with such noteworthy winners, our sincere gratitude. To Janet Eckelman, who is a world-renowned artist, Henry Crown Fellow with the Institute, and who designed and manufactured the awards, our sincere thanks for the efforts that she put in. And finally, we couldn't have made this possible without CH2M Hill. Lee, thank you very much for your sponsorship this year. And Tim Olson, whose tireless efforts to make this thing a reality, I can't thank enough. Thanks very much for coming this evening.
Thank you, Bill. And now, I hope you will all join us for some cocktails out in the foyer. Please join the awardees, get a chance to meet these distinguished folks, and have a nice time. Thank you.